what are their natural responses, particularly under stress? How are they going to engage with people? How are they going to appear to the other personality types? And equally, the strategies for each of those personality types to develop and cultivate more emotional intelligence to ultimately have better collaboration, better relationships, which for us in major incident management equals speed. Hello and welcome. My name's Adam Norman. I'm the CEO here at MIM. MIM is the professional body for IT Major Incident Management, and we deliver our training and certification programs in the global best practice in IT Major Incident Management to clients in over 95 countries around the world. So in this video, I'd like to talk about emotional intelligence, and I'd like to talk about something called AgileEQ, which is a framework and a methodology which we teach in MIM Expert, which is in the second tier certification in the global best practice in IT Major Incident Management. So before I do, let's just start off with the definition of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and facilitate emotions in self, but also in others. Now, most of us are pretty aware that emotional intelligence is a requirement for the modern day workforce. And we all think about communication skills and leadership and all the things that go into that. Like fundamentally, most people's true understanding of emotional intelligence is perhaps very different from one another. It's probably not universally well understood. Now, AgileEQ is something that comes from Wiley & Son's DISC methodology. Many of you will be familiar with DISC because it is psychometric profiling, so personality types and the different types of personalities that we teach in the first tier, MIM Professional Certification. We go to great lengths to teach personality types because adapting your communication styles in terms of how you're leading, in terms of how you're engaging, collaborating, and communicating with others, improves performance exponentially. So you get reduced downtime, you get happier team stakeholders. Stakeholder communication is also much better, particularly one-on-one with senior leadership. But your understanding of what's required and how to navigate your colleagues, team members, all the people you work with really improves through using something like DISC, using some kind of personality tool and understanding the different types of personalities and their worldview. So in this video, I'll give you a very high level summary of DISC. We have a whole nother video that covers a bit more, and obviously we teach a lot of it in the course. But what I want to jump to is AgileEQ. AgileEQ builds on all the knowledge from the first DISC training that we teach and looks at it from an emotional standpoint, meaning all the different personality types. What are their natural responses, particularly under stress? How are they going to engage with people? How are they going to appear to the other personality types? And equally, the strategies for each of those personality types to develop and cultivate more emotional intelligence to ultimately have better collaboration, better relationships, which for us in major incident management equals speed. So naturally, major incident management requires us to deal with all kinds of complex situations, people and their personalities. And it is normally under stress. It might not be us under stress, but other people. Occasionally it can be us. But either way, there is definitely heightened levels of emotion when major incidents occur. So one situation might require us to be very open to new ideas, and in another situation, actually, we need to stand quite firm. So we have to be adaptable, particularly emotionally, when we're leading major incidents. Unfortunately, it's pretty common that as people, we get stuck in behavioural loops and patterns which make it quite difficult for us to see and choose the most effective responses. So we often resort to our most common behavioural patterns, and not because they're the best choice, but often because it's what we know, what we're comfortable with, and what we have done many times before. When we can develop our emotional intelligence, we can actually identify and utilise new responses that can be far more effective than our default ones. And so the more we identify and use these responses, the more adaptable and agile we actually become as leaders, meaning we can better navigate many situations that we encounter. So using the personalised psychometric tests from Wiley & Sons and the DISC framework during MimExpert, we provide a really detailed analysis and reporting on each person's specific personality type and the strengths, challenges and patterns of behaviour that is actually specific to each individual, as well as strategies that further develop the emotional intelligence, communication and leadership. So we're going to talk now in generalities because naturally I can't speak to every single one of you and all the different personality types. This will be a very long video. So I'm going to give you an overview of the framework, the 8 mindsets and some of the behaviours, and then we'll look at one personality type in particular in the AgileEQ framework. So there are a couple of cornerstone principles. With AgileEQ, emotional intelligence is the ability to read the emotional and interpersonal needs of a situation and respond accordingly. Emotional intelligence is not fixed, as I mentioned. It is a skill that can be developed for better outcomes and performance. There are different ways in which we can be emotionally intelligent, and some of them will be innate to you. They'll be very natural. Others will require a lot more effort from you. And finally, developing your emotional intelligence will increase performance. So before I can go into AgileEQ, for those of you that haven't worked with us, who haven't done the training, or even if you've gone direct and worked with DISC, some of the people watching won't be familiar with personality types. So I'm going to give a really high level overview of the 4 core personality types in the DISC framework before we can move on to the AgileEQ. So in DISC, there are 4 core personality types. D for dominance, I for influence, S for steadiness, and C for conscientiousness. Now there are secondary types, but we are not going to get into that right now. D for dominance personality type. So people with the D for dominance style are going to be direct and firm. They are motivated by power and authority, by competition, by winning and success. You will notice self-confidence, forcefulness, directness and risk-taking. They fear being taken advantage of, a loss of control, or being vulnerable. I for influence. So people with the I for influence style are more outgoing and enthusiastic. They're motivated by social recognition, group activities, and friendly relationships. You will notice enthusiasm, a sociable person, optimism, and talkativeness. They fear social rejection, loss of influence, and being ignored. S for steadiness. People with the S for steadiness are usually even-tempered and accommodating. They're motivated by stable environments, sincere appreciation, cooperation, and opportunities to help. You will notice patience, a team player, a calm approach, a good listener, and humility. They fear the loss of stability, change, loss of harmony, and offending others. C for conscientiousness. People with the C for conscientiousness are analytical and reserved. They are motivated by opportunities to use their expertise or gain knowledge. and their attention to quality. With them, you will notice precision, analysis, skepticism, and they will be more reserved and quiet. They fear criticism, they fear poor methods, and they fear being wrong. So those are the 4 personality types. Something I should say is this is an extremely high level overview. Obviously, when you go through MIM Professional, there's a 20-page report with strategies, a lot of detail on each of these personality types. Equally, you can watch a number of other videos, and even videos from Wiley & Sons that will give you more information on them if you're interested. This is very high level. It's just a refresher as well for those who have done it, so that we can move into the AgileEQ. So, AgileEQ. There are 8 AgileEQ mindsets that will help you to understand interactions. These are dynamic, outgoing, empathizing, receptive, composed, objective, resolute, and self-assured. So our personality type will determine which combination of these 8 AgileEQ mindsets will come naturally to us and which will actually take a lot more effort for us to apply. Again, we're not going to cover all of the personality types and the AgileEQ responses here, but we will take a look at one specifically just to give you a really good example. So let's take a look at somebody who has the DI personality type. So D for dominance as their primary type and I for influence as their secondary type. Their EQ strengths would be self-assured, so they take the lead and are confident. Dynamic, they will take risks and be able to inspire and persuade others. Outgoing, they will reach out to others and say what they are really thinking. So the effect of the DI personality type in terms of their emotional intelligence is likely to be people will follow their lead. They will be able to tap into people's energy and confidence. They will see new possibilities. People may feel overwhelmed by them, and they may be resentful for the forcefulness that is applied by the DI personality type. So, what needs power the EQ or the emotional intelligence of somebody with the DI personality? Well, the DI emotionally needs to achieve big things. They need to have influence or feel that they have influence on people and decisions. They often need excitement and variety, and they need to feel progress to move forward. What mindset might take more effort for somebody with the DI personality then? Well, of those 8 mindsets, the ones that will be more challenging and take more effort for somebody with a DI personality will be empathizing, receptive, composed, objective, and resolute. So, for a DI, the fact that they are dynamic, self-assured, and outgoing will help to achieve goals and deal with many situations. So they're probably quite used to relying on their basic instinct and natural responses in terms of emotional intelligence. But there probably are occasions where it simply doesn't work. So using their natural responses may actually make certain situations worse. So for example, working hard to align people with your way of thinking, that you didn't really stop to consider the others and how they think about the situation or their opinion, can end up alienating people or indeed alienating yourself. So this is something that the DI personality type might see. So what would the opportunities be for them? Well, let's take 2 of those mindsets that are more of a challenge for them. The empathizing mindset. So empathizing is reaching out with compassion, essentially seeking to understand others' emotional needs and struggles and being supportive. For the DI type, the empathizing mindset will take a lot more effort. It will not come naturally. So we have to pay attention to verbal and non-verbal cues. We have to reserve judgment so that we can actually understand what someone else might be experiencing. And we need to give people the space to speak up. If we fail to use the empathizing mindset as a DI personality, if we're not using that with the team, when we're running major incidents with stakeholders and all of those around us, then we may be too forceful in our actions. And taking the time to understand others will always ensure the best performance and collaboration in the groups that actually far outweighs any kind of authoritarian approach. For major incidents, ultimately using the empathizing mindset will actually show up ultimately in reduced downtime and better performance and relationships. So when someone with the DI personality type is trying to get into the empathizing mindset, they'll probably have to overcome a number of thoughts. Thoughts like, we don't have time for this. I've got more important things going on. I shouldn't have to coddle people. And I know what I would do in your place. And obviously, these are natural objections that will come up with somebody who is quite firm and wants speed and action and progress. There's nothing wrong with having those thoughts. It's what we do about those thoughts and recognizing that those are not necessarily always justified or the right way to think about the situation if we'd like the best possible outcome. So where could this personality type start to embrace the mindset? At a very basic level, they could start checking in with people and offering support. They could actually gather information about underlying emotions, actually asking people or paying attention to the situation. And they could adapt their style to different people. So understanding the other styles, the other personality traits, giving those people what they need is a very good strategy to improve collaboration. So instead of thinking about us and our style and what we need, tailoring our communication to the others and individual styles to give them what they need. So that's the empathizing mindset that our DI personality would normally struggle with and could absolutely do with utilizing more for better outcomes. What about the objective mindset? The objective mindset is separating facts from emotions and keeping the discussion focused on logic. So again, for the DI style, the objective mindset is going to take a lot more energy. It will not come naturally. The objective mindset encourages a focus on facts and logic over the emotion and frustrations. It helps to lift some of the emotional fog that can often keep us from seeing things clearly. And it helps you to recognize emotions and bias and personal affiliations that actually might impede yours and others' judgment. If we fail as a DI to incorporate the objective mindset, we run the risk of making really poor decisions, which will impact the direction of the major incident and damage relationships. So when someone with the DI personality type is trying to get into the objective mindset, they may have to overcome various thoughts. Things like, I know exactly what has to happen. I'm right even if I don't have evidence, I just feel it. I feel strongly I must be right. And let's not slow down to look at every angle, let's progress. These are things that naturally will come up in the mind of a DI when they're dealing with others, particularly those who are more cautious and want to take more time and assess the situation. So where could the DI personality type begin to take action to be in more of an objective mindset when the situation calls for it? They can identify situations where emotions are negatively impacting their thinking. They need to learn to balance emotion with logic when making decisions. And they almost need to invite others to critique their thinking and be open to that. So, in summary, we've covered a very high level of DISC and the 4 core personality types. We've talked very lightly about one of the AgileEQ mindsets and two of the areas where they could do with developing their emotional intelligence and putting themselves into different mindsets for more productive outcomes. We've looked at how they shape their interactions and how potentially they could apply those different mindsets and some of the negative thought loops and patterns that may be coming up. And ultimately, what I'd like you to take away from this is there are so many positive benefits from really doing work around emotional intelligence, communication styles and leadership. And there's a lot of very well-structured information out there available, even if you just search online or read or various books that you utilize. And being willing to change and test things out, different styles, different approaches with people, absolutely will bring more positive results. Thank you very much for your time. I've enjoyed talking on this video. I will see you next time.